Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Right now, we head to the phones and we visit with the owner of J2 Strategist, Jason Johnson, joining us here on the program. Jason, good morning. How are you today, my friend?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Chad. How you doing in Lubbock?
We're doing great. We're about 30 degrees cooler than where we were yesterday, so that's good. We're going to be happy today. Everyone, when you go from 110 degrees to 82, 83, 84, people are just in a better mood.
Roger that. We weren't quite as extreme today down here south of Austin, but we were over 100 and we're in the mid-80s today as well.
That's not bad. We'll take it. Hey, where to begin? I guess we'll start off on some statewide stuff with the audio tape, the meeting, the whole controversy surrounding Speaker Dennis Bonnen, Representative Dustin Burrows, and Michael Quinn Sullivan. Jason, you know the story. Everyone's pretty much caught up to date, I think, except for yesterday. You had the announcement basically by Michael Quinn Sullivan that he has turned over the audio to the Texas Rangers. And
right.
and that he said in a letter to, I believe it was to Representative Click, that he was not going to release the audio to the public, at least not yet.
Yeah. So, first of all, I guess we should congratulate him for complying with the law enforcement agency. I mean, as if he had a choice there. Look, I have maintained since I started looking at this, Chad, that he is not going to release the tape to the public. I haven't heard the tape, as we've discussed before, but I have talked to numerous people who've listened to the tape, the audio recording, and I am convinced that for Michael Quinn Sullivan, it is much better for him and his personal interest, his selfish interest. And at this point, it's hard for me to conclude that this is about anything other than his own personal desires. This is as good as it gets. For him to release the recording yanks the rug out from under his own feet. He's overplayed his hand here, and now his back is against the wall. You've had the governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, of course, Mr. Burrows, of course, the new caucus chairman, and even folks who have said nice things about Sullivan, ironically enough, given how much money Sullivan has spent against those individuals. It's only ironic because now they're aligned in their desire to take out Dennis Bonnen. But even those folks, unanimously across the board, everybody says, release the audio. But he won't do it. Why? What is he hiding?
What do you when you said that he's overplayed his hand? How do you think he's overplayed his hand? Because we had Representative Burrows on the show last week. Mm-hmm. He said that while there was no physical list, that that there were lawmakers who were targeted. And this had to deal with I guess through the lens of the taxpayer funded lobbying ban that did not pass in the legislature in this past session. This seems to confirm at least what Michael Quinn Sullivan has been saying, right?
Well, does it confirm that Michael Quinn Sullivan suddenly is sincere about protecting the very Republicans that were allegedly talked about in this meeting, right? If you look at the last 10 years, right, now there's this guy, Michael Quinn Sullivan, that suddenly is the great protector of all Republicans, including quote-unquote moderates. In the last 10 years, he has spent over $10 million against Republicans while only spending about $1.7 million against Democrats. So it's not that there's a confirmation whether or not people were discussed. I think that's been clear for quite some time. I think the dispute here is over Sullivan's allegations that Speaker Bonnen and Chairman Burrows walked in with some physical list that was a quote-unquote hit list, as I understand it. And, hey, the way to clear all of this up for you, me, your listeners, and all of Texans is release the audio. But as I understand it, Bonnen and Burrows went into that meeting and said over and over again in the beginning of the meeting don't go after Republicans in general. We want you to lay off Republicans. Focus your energy, focus your money, focus your resources on Democrats. Sullivan pushed back, which, by the way, I don't blame him. I probably would have pushed back too. The guy, has an agenda. And if someone opposes his agenda, he has the right as a citizen, he has the right as someone who runs a political organization to oppose them. That's when, as I understand it, a transition occurred. And basically the position was taken that, okay, we get it. You can't help yourself. You would rather spend money against Republicans. So if you're going to do that, at least do it based on merit, right? At least just oppose people who specifically vote against your agenda. And I think that's where the prohibition on taxpayer-funded lobbying came about.
Do you think there's and you made some tweets about this over the weekend? A little bit of text ledge conservative media kind of blew up on Friday on Twitter. One of the things that you had tweeted out was that, and there's been some discussion about this, whether or not there was anything embarrassing or something that was said by Sullivan that he doesn't want to get out on that audio. Do you think that occurred, and do you think that's why he doesn't want to release the audio?
I think there are many reasons he doesn't want to release the audio. I mean, starting with, look, he's always wanted something that he doesn't have, and that's to have all of this attention. And now he has something that everybody else wants, right? And so this is just a beautiful thing for a guy who seeks this much attention. And the longer he can drip this out, and the longer this goes on, in his twisted world, it seems that he sees this as a positive, even though everyone outside of his very small cabal sees that this is damaging overall to Republicans as we head into 2020. But first and foremost, I think it's because he's getting his kicks and jollies off of having everybody pay attention to him. But number two, yes. Let's assume I'm wrong about the first. Let's assume he just hates all of this attention. There's something there that he doesn't want everyone to hear. And I think they fall into multiple categories. First and foremost, I think the underlying narrative that he's out there spinning. And that's why you referred to the tweets. I called it a con. I think it is a con. I think he is acting as a con artist right now because the perception that he's created is that he suddenly was a victim in this meeting, right? And all of a sudden he was asked to go and target Republicans, and that offended him. And he's even alleged that it was illegal, right? When in reality, I believe if we hear the audio, if we hear the full unedited audio and get the context, it'll completely destroy the narrative that he's laid out there. Number two, I have heard, and unlike him, I'm not going to engage in innuendo and rumor and false allegations, so I won't get specific. But yes, I've heard from people who have listened to the audio that there are some things that he says specifically about some political organizations that he is traditionally allied with that aren't very flattering and frankly would undermine this kind of pious sincerity above all of the fray that he projects out to the world. And he didn't want anybody to hear it. Bottom line.
Visiting with Jason Johnson here on the Chad Hasty Show. Jason, I mean, do you think this wraps up anytime soon?
I hope so, because I was thinking about it yesterday. All right, look, I want to say again, I said a moment ago, look, Michael Quinn Sullivan, myself, Jason Johnson, any individual citizen, anybody who works for any organization, when we're interacting with elected officials, if elected officials are saying, hey, don't go after anybody, right, we have the right to push back, right? That's our right. But the reality here, this is my opinion, is that you got a guy who has a single mission. I mean, in fact, he's told people his whole goal, force the speaker to resign, force the governor to call a special session, then force the House to, select his handpicked speaker, then force the governor to put some new issues on a charge for a special session, et cetera. And he's attempting to circumvent the whole process. It's like Jerry Nadler and the whole impeachment game with the president. I mean, at this point, based upon the way Sullivan is acting, I mean, the only difference between he and Nadler is an election certificate and 200 pounds. If he wants to take the speaker out, that's his right. Go out, win more seats, get more members of the House elected who will vote against Bonnen. have a speaker's election. They vote on the speaker every session. He has that right, but he's going about it in this, sideways, underhanded, overly political approach that is just detrimental, and frankly, it doesn't comport with the way we are supposed to engage in elections. That's why it reminds me of the whole impeachment game. Democrats, they want to take the president out, go beat him at the ballot box. Yeah. Same thing with the speaker. Elect more members who don't want him, and frankly, go to his district and beat him.
Yeah. Visiting with Jason Johnson, former chief strategist for the Cruz for President campaign, also owner of J2 Strategies. Jason, it's always good to visit with you, my friend,
yes,
and I'm pretty sure we'll be visiting quite a bit in the next few weeks.
Roger. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you. That's Jason Johnson here on the Chad Hasty Show.